Hi Cancer, I hope that you're all doing well. We are starting off this reading with a focus on you taking a look at something. There can be something that you've been needing to discern or to figure out or consolidate. I'm looking at the Queen of Swords and I'm also looking at Six of Wands. When we have Six of Wands, it's about us having success with something that we've been putting effort into. And having Queen of Swords, this is about you applying your discernment. It's like feeling a little bit like a Virgo energy to me is the way that this is coming through. Queen of Swords is about listening, and it is about our understanding, and it's about like taking things in and kind of like recognizing patterns and putting the pieces together. So there may have been something kind of like mental that had to be figured out, where you really had to pay attention. Maybe you needed to strategize in some way. There can be social things that this is connected with too, but whatever it is, it really feels like I figured out how to handle this and I feel good about the way that I did that, and now things are going to move forward. So whatever this was that you figured out, feels like things can proceed now. This can even be something about yourself that you were analyzing. Regarding what's right for you, I am seeing justice coming out. So we have a lot of Libra energy here. Queen of Swords is connected with Libra. Justice is connected with Libra too. When we have themes of Libra, there can be themes having to do with contracts, having to do with our relationships, having to do with us maintaining order and balance within our lives, or correcting things so that that can happen. So if there's like a strain or there's an issue or there's a conflict, it's about figuring out how to resolve that and bring back the balance, how to bring back that equilibrium. So maybe there's been something going on that you've been looking at it and figuring out, like, how do I do that? And a really important key part of this is that you're not really going to feel like things are in right order unless like you actually feel good with it. So it's not just about like how it looks on the surface, it's about you actually feeling like you're in a good place with what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're deciding and like the calls that you're making. So it's not just like, okay, well, I made it good for everybody, but this like really isn't working for me. It's about understanding that it needs to also work for you. It needs to also feel right to you, and that both of those things need to be happening. It's just this justice comes down to making sure that what's on the inner is like mirrored externally, and what's going on externally is also a mirror for what's happening internally, and making sure that those things are aligning with one another, rather than being like, I feel this on the inside but that like doesn't really match the circumstances. There's like this importance here that you make sure that things are just like matching one another. Otherwise there will be this feeling of like something is still not right here that does need to be made right. So it's about getting things done and feeling good about it, good about the outcome of that. Who was that? Queen of Swords is also that part of us that we do want to handle things in a graceful way, so that can be part of it too. Sometimes there is like a diplomatic way that things need to be handled because we don't want to be excessive when it comes to what we're doing. So that can also be something where it's like, how do I handle this and be effective while also not being excessive? It looks like there's some healing that's happening too. I'm looking at Three of Swords and I'm looking at Temperance. This is connected with Sagittarius. Yeah, this is about taking the time to heal something. So this means that like emotionally, mentally, you can be in a place of recovering right now. And that will happen. You just have to give it the time that it needs to happen. I think this is going to happen more quickly than you think if you give yourself the proper time to do this. Okay, so you've been going through a situation that has not been feeling easy. However, it has culminated now at this point. So I'm seeing it be something where you're like in the aftermath of working through that. What this looks like is that in order for things to be in right order, something had to close out, because keeping that open may have really like not been good for you. And it may have been really difficult to take care of this, but it needed to be taken care of. And whether this was something that happened yesterday or something that happened a long time ago, this can be some weight that you've been carrying with you, like mentally and emotionally and spiritually. Can be something that has... You know, it can like even be stuff that manifests physically because of carrying this around. And I think this is also something that can push you into a space of being like, I need to understand spiritually what's going on here. So that can be something too, is that this pushed you into a space of like wanting to understand things on a deeper level. Because how do you get through something like this without connecting with some deeper meaning that's going to give you a sense of peace about what's going on? So it can be something that it's like taken you some time to really reflect on this and look through it and be working through it. But it could be something where you're like, I don't understand, and something that you've been searching for meaning so you could understand this. Otherwise, it's just going to be something that feels painful and meaningless. And so this is about having that experience. It's about coming through on the other side of it, and then like balance being restored once again, your understanding of things being restored once again. I feel like this is also a cosmic thing of being like, why did that have to happen? And there's something about coming to maybe some like resolution at this point where you're like, I think that I'm starting to understand why that had to happen. But before, you could have felt quizzical about this, like not really getting like why things happened in the way that they did. And you could have been like, I can't let this go until I work through it. But it does feel like you've been working through it, and now you can feel like you're at a point where maybe you don't have to, maybe you feel like you've worked through this now, or you're getting very close to that point where I see like connection and joy coming back into your life. In like before, maybe what this was, it could have felt like it desensitized you, which really feels actually like what you went through. It could have felt like too much to bear, that experience, and so you could have like gone kind of numb. And now it feels like this thawing out that's been happening, where things can, there's like movement coming back and stuff isn't really frozen anymore. And that means like emotionally you can be opening up again. What this can look like too is knowing if you're the one that like had to end something or had to close it out, or let me reframe that actually. You're in a situation and you understand that if you're going to respond appropriately, it needs to close out. Whether this was you needing to do that or a situation ended, this is understanding that as painful as it might be, this is something that it wasn't meant to continue. So as difficult as it can be to experience that closure, ultimately, this is understanding that this is what must be done. And for some of you, you've been like trying to find the meaning of this. I don't even know if it was about, but this can be something like philosophically you've been trying to understand, where you're like, I got that it needed to close out. Like I could understand that part. I was just like trying to understand why, like, why did I need to go through that? Why did that have to happen? And having Six of Wands and having Temperance, Six of Wands feels like the closing out actually happened, and that was a big thing in and of itself. Temperance and Hanged Man is about you getting to a point where you're understanding what had happened, the meaning behind it, like why did things unfold in that way. Because too, until this is something that's processed, you can feel scared about moving forward, because if you're not understanding your past, what's to stop that from repeating unknowingly? But when you understand why something happened the way that it did, you're going to be conscious about that, and you're going to be aware how not to set yourself up for that same thing and have that same experience, so you learn from that. But what you could have felt like is, I don't feel safe to move forward until I understand this, until I learn what I need to learn from this. But now that that seems like you have it under your belt, it actually seems like you're opening back up again. This is what it's looking like with Justice, Page of Cups, Three of Wands, is that you can like start seeing your future once again. And you can start being like, yeah, I could see myself like opening up again, being receptive again. It can be like, maybe after going through like a relationship thing, you felt like you needed some time to process and understand it. Now you're like, maybe I would entertain like getting into a relationship again. It can be something like this. Getting involved again, you know, like having Justice and having Page of Cups feels like your heart is in a balanced place again, and that like your intuition and your mind, they are in a balanced place again. And so you can be thinking about your future now, where you're not stuck within this situation anymore, because you've processed it, and you can be thinking about like, where am I going to go? What am I going to be doing? Like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Especially as it relates to things like relationships and whatnot, is what it seems like. So it can be something that you're thinking about, like, where do I want to go? Like, what does my heart want to be involved with? What do I really want to be connecting with? And this overall is something that's being considered. Now, I don't see you immediately taking action on this. This feels like something where you're like entertaining ideas again that before you were very shut down about, that now you're like, I think that I might be open to that. But you can feel like you still need some time still, and that's perfectly fine. It feels like what's being recognized is that you went through something that was challenging. You've been putting in a lot of work to try to understand the meaning and the purpose of all of this. You may not be fully completely done working through it, but you're like basically completing working through it. And then it feels like you're going to open yourself back up again, and that you are open to being open once again, and that this has been like a huge personal quest that you've been moving through overall. I'm seeing Libra, and I'm also seeing, I'm hearing a couple different, I'm hearing Gemini, I'm hearing Aries, I'm seeing Libra, and I'm seeing Sagittarius here, and we also have Neptune. Having Queen of Swords and having Neptune can be places where there were like signs about things that you could have been missing before, that now in reviewing this, you can be like, oh, I'm seeing this and that I like wasn't acknowledging before when I was going through this, that would have indicated like it was going to lead in this direction. So it can be a time when you're like, I really did need to see this and understand it, because it can just be overall like stuff that was being swept under the rug as you were going through that process, that now that you look at it, you're like, it was so obvious like what was going to happen, but it didn't feel obvious at the time. So this is getting better at picking up those clues for reference, and that it can inform you about where things would be leading. Some of you can also be traveling too. That's something that can come up as well. Reconciling with the past overall. So you feel like you can genuinely, open-heartedly be open to like what's next, and that you're not carrying some karmic baggage with you that's going to like ruin what you get into next, because you're not really ready, because you haven't fully processed. I think that's about everything. Yeah. All right, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting and tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.